"I need you to understand something," she whispers, her voice catching on every word. "I promised him I would never tell anyone what happened in that bathroom. But I am 91 years old now, and some promises are not meant to outlive the person who asked for them." What if the official story of Elvis Presley's death was never the whole story? Join us today as we examine the claims of a woman who says she was inside Graceland in the final hours of August 16th, 1977, and who has finally decided to speak after nearly 5 decades of silence. The nurse nobody was supposed to remember her name, according to public records from that era, was Loretta Fine. She reportedly worked as a private duty nurse hired quietly through a Memphis medical staffing agency in the summer of 1977. According to her own recent statements, she was brought to Graceland not for Elvis directly, but for the household, though she claims she ended up at his side more nights than anyone outside the mansion ever knew. Fine alleges that by the summer of 1977, Elvis's health had become something the inner circle actively hid from the public. "He was scared," she reportedly said in a recent tearful interview. "Not of dying, of being seen as weak." According to her, he rarely left his bedroom before sundown that summer, and spent long hours simply sitting at his piano, playing the same gospel hymn over and over without ever finishing it. She claims she once found him standing alone at his bedroom window at 3 in the morning, still fully dressed, staring out at the front gates as if he expected someone to arrive. She says he asked her more than once to sit with him after midnight, not for medical reasons, but simply so he would not be alone with his own thoughts. On one such night, she claims, he pulled an old photograph of his mother from a drawer and held it without saying a word for nearly an hour. Fine claims she watched him grow thinner and more withdrawn through July, skipping meals she brought him, and once telling her, according to her account, that he was tired in a way sleep could not fix. She also remembers a rare good night that same week when Elvis gathered a few members of the household in the music room and sang an old gospel song from his childhood, his eyes closed, his voice, she says, stronger than it had sounded in months. Afterward, she claims, he pressed a small silver cross into her hand and told her to keep it, in case she ever needed reminding that things could still be beautiful. According to her account, on the night of August 15th into the early hours of August 16th, she was called to the upstairs suite 3 separate times. Official history says Elvis was alone when he was found. Fine claims that is not entirely accurate and says at least one other person was in that hallway before the ambulance ever arrived. So what does she say actually happened behind that locked door? And why has she waited 49 years to say it? Let's delve deeper. The family that wanted her gone fine claims that within days of Elvis's death, she was quietly paid a settlement and asked to sign paperwork she says she never fully understood. "They told me it was for my protection," she reportedly explained. "I understand now it may have been for theirs." According to Fine, tension inside Graceland's staff had been building for months before that August. She claims she once witnessed a heated argument between Elvis and his father Vernon in the downstairs study, the two men's voices rising over what she believed was money and medication. She alleges Elvis walked out of that room looking, in her words, smaller than she had ever seen him. She also recalls a quieter moment days earlier, when Elvis sat on the back steps with his young daughter, tickling her until she laughed. Seemingly, Fine says, without a single worry on his mind, at least for those few minutes. Later that same evening, she claims, she found him alone in the den, television flickering in front of him with the sound turned off, a plate of untouched food cooling on the table beside his chair. She alleges that certain members of Elvis's circle viewed her as an outsider, someone who saw too much and said too little about it. Until now. She claims she was moved out of Memphis within 2 weeks of the funeral, to a small apartment in another state, with her rent reportedly paid for a full year. Fine claims she kept a small, handwritten notebook from those final weeks, with notes on medications, moods, visitors, and warnings she says she gave that were reportedly ignored by those around him. She says she has kept that notebook hidden in a safety deposit box for over 40 years. If her notebook is real, what could it actually prove? Keep watching for more. The evidence under the microscope. Researchers who have reviewed portions of Fine's claims point to several details worth examining. Her employment dates, cross-referenced against Memphis staffing agency archives from 1977, reportedly place a woman with her name in the greater Graceland household during the correct window. Voice analysts who listened to her recent recorded statement note that her description of Elvis's private routine, the piano he favored, the particular hymn, the untouched trays of food, allegedly matches details rarely mentioned outside a handful of unpublished household interviews from decades past. A handwriting sample, said to be from her 1977 notebook, was reportedly compared against her verified handwriting from later medical documents, and according to those who examined it, the stroke patterns are said to be consistent, though no independent forensic lab has confirmed this publicly. Fine's supporters also point to a faded photograph showing a young woman in a white uniform standing near a car outside the Graceland gates in the summer of 1977. The image has never been independently dated or authenticated, and its origin remains, for now, unconfirmed. None of this proves her account is true. But it does suggest Loretta Fine may not be a woman inventing a story about a man she never truly knew. Believer or bystander? Supporters of Fine's account say her willingness to come forward at 91, with nothing left to gain and little time left to enjoy any resulting attention, lends her claims a certain weight. Why lie now? One supporter reportedly asked. What does she get out of it? Critics, however, urge caution. They point out that decades-old memories are notoriously unreliable, that grief and age can reshape recollection, and that the Elvis mythology has attracted countless uncorroborated claims before hers. For her part, Fine has said in her recent statement that she is not asking anyone to believe her. "I only want it said once, out loud, before I go," she reportedly told the interviewer. What people do with that is their business. What is certain is that Loretta Fine says she was there, sitting beside a man the whole world thought they already knew. What she says she saw has never been part of the official record, until now. Do you believe her? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if this investigation kept you hooked, make sure to like and subscribe for the next chapter in this story.